are listening to Voice of the Fans Sportscast, brought to you by none other than the voices of the fans.
It is Monday, the 7th of April. This is Voice of the Fans Canada. I'm Randy Coure. We are live on YouTube at VOF Canada. Thank you so much for joining us. As well, if you have downloaded tonight's episode off of your favorite podcatcher, thank you so much for the download. On tonight's episode, Major League Baseball is in full swing, and the Juan Soto experience has begun with the New York Mets. As well, the LA Dodgers and their pursuit to defend the World Series championship from last year has also begun. Vladimir Guerrero will be north of the U.S. border for a very long time and will be a very rich man. There is a new goal-scoring king in the National Hockey League. Alexander Ovechkin surpassed Wayne Gretzky this past weekend with a usual rocket from the left side of the ice, like he always is, on Sunday against the New York Islanders. We are going to stay with hockey and take a look at how hockey is being absorbed in the United States, especially after the very successful Four Nations Faceoff. And there's a big basketball game set to tip off in less than an hour. The men's Division I basketball final between the number one seed Florida Gators and number one seed Houston Cougars will tip off in San Antonio. The Gators looking for their first title since 2007. The Cougars, their first crown potentially in school history. There, of course, is a lot more. The Roundtable has assembled once again. Back with us, Neel Katarey. Neel, how are you?
Good to be back, Randy.
It's great to have you back. Thank you so much for joining us. And from south of our border, it's amazing they agreed to join me tonight, especially with the basketball game going on. So internally, I'm sure they're hoping that Coure will be as quick as possible so they can watch the big game. First up, he's always talking sports with Jake. Find him at CardyJ3152 on Twitter. He is Long Island strong, but he is killing it right now in grad school down up the street in Connecticut. He is Jake Cardinale, back once again. Jake, what's going on?
I'm doing good. I'm happy that school is almost over.
School is almost over. Yes. Neel and I know that feeling all too well, the joy of ending school. Of course, Neel did a lot more school than me, but that's another story. Speaking of talking, he is talking baseball with Sal Angelotti on WBCB radio in Philadelphia as well. You can find him at Rider University 1077 The Bronx. Matt Siriani is back once again. Matty, how are you, my man?
Oh my goodness, it's good to be back on the show. I remember when you messaged me at 10:58 this morning. I said yes in like 30 seconds.
I messaged you and Jake. Yes. I messaged you guys, and it was short notice. I was like, these guys have lives. They have so much going on. They're in school. You guys are doing 9,000 radio shows and have so much going on. The fact that you guys joined me and Neel, thank you so much, boys. It's going to be a great episode as always. But let's get into it, and let's get into a pretty darn big basketball game that's happening tonight. In less than an hour, as mentioned, the Gators and the Cougars will determine the best in Division I men's basketball. And, I'm going to throw it to the floor in a general sense. Are you guys excited for the big game? I mean, like in previous years, obviously a championship game is a championship game, and March Madness is March Madness, especially in the United States. Where is this on your sporting calendar, fellas?
Well, I say this all the time. I love March Madness more than anything. And it's like my favorite tournament in all sports, and there's no close second. I will say, as a whole, this year's March Madness has been mostly chalk lines, I guess you can say. There hasn't been a lot of chaos. I mean, Duke losing to Houston, I think, was a tremendous upset. Probably bigger than Arkansas beating St. John's, but still, it's a 1 seed versus a 1 seed. So there wasn't really a lot of significance there. But I do think that this title game is going to be a dandy. Even if you're from Texas, I know my man Kevin Zelis-Kovic is a diehard Houston Cougars fan. He's waiting. He's foaming at the mouth, hoping that Houston wins the title. But no, this tournament has had a lot of close games, a lot of action, a lot of storylines, which I think is like what makes March Madness great, because you get 3 weeks of competitive basketball at the collegiate level, and you also get to see from a scout standpoint from the NBA what the future holds. And I think that's what the amazing thing is.
But doesn't it lose something, Maddie? And, maybe it's a little unfair to ask you and Jake, because, I mean, Neel and I definitely remember the Stars of Tomorrow staying 4 years at their respective schools, the Grant Hills, the Christian Leitners. Enter any basketball star from the 80s, 90s, maybe even the 2000s. Well, maybe not so much the 2000s, but you get my point.
Yeah.
Doesn't it lose something, one and dones?
I mean, yeah.
And I mean, with regards to, please continue.
A little bit,
Maddie.
Because, Cooper Flagg coming to Duke and staying there for 1 year is like, well, what was the point? I mean, Cooper Flagg's the guy that could have skipped college and went straight to the NBA. That's how talented he is. But I think he wanted that 1 year just to showcase what he brings to the table. But then this is not the only guy. Zion Williamson, same story. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper of Rutgers, they're probably going to go for the NBA as well. They might not even make it to the draft, but they have potential to actually be draftable players. But when LeBron and Kevin Durant are praising these two guys, you could probably sense that they're likely going to get drafted, if not in the first round, definitely in the second round.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, with one and done, it's a little different, I'm sure, with Randy and Neo. You guys obviously physically watch guys like Grant Hill and Michael Jordan in college. Matt and I did not. So basically my entire life, there haven't been that many guys that, stay for 4 years. So it's just the one and done's is kind of what I grew up with. I assume Matt did it as well. For me, not the biggest deal in the world, just because, and also I just don't see a universe where we ever go back. Maybe one or two guys do it, but consistently, I don't see that ever happening. My problem is more with the transfer portal and guys being on 4 different schools and still being 25 years old, still playing college basketball or college football. Like, if I'm still in college, 25 years old, I'm called a loser, but they do it in their praise. Man, I'm 23. I'm still in school. I said with Topper to get out of here. So, but yeah, one and done rule isn't the biggest deal in the world to me, but I think the transfer portal to me is more of a problem.
Yeah. And I don't know how old Jake thinks I am, but I was born, Michael Jordan was already in the NBA. I know all about his college years, but I definitely didn't watch him in college. But to your point, Randy, I don't think it's a big deal. You got to think about when the fact that, they reinstituted the 1 year minimum in college. Guys were already coming straight to the NBA from high school. And who wouldn't have loved to see Kobe a year at Duke? Who wouldn't have loved to see KG a year in college completely dominating? And then, because it took him a couple of years to kind of get settled in the NBA, you would have seen that year of dominance. Look, more talent is always a good thing for any sport, any competition. And so whatever you can get out of these guys before they go to the NBA, for example, Cooper Flagg this year, it was unbelievable watching him in this tournament. The guy looks like Larry Bird 2.0 on paper in the tournament. Like, I really think this guy's got a
Sure.
ceiling of Larry Bird 2.0 in the league if everything goes his way. Just from what I saw, how 3-level scorer, excellent defensive player, and the winning kind of that drive you want to see out of a player, diving for balls, really putting his ass on the line. And I'm with Matt, man. I hardly watch college basketball during the year, hardly.
Sure.
But I'm always up for March Madness. I'm always making my brackets. I'm always, every year for the last 20 years, I haven't missed a single championship game. And I may be here and there watching, but I love when it starts, setting my alerts, close game alerts, upset alerts, everything that kind of clues me in. And when I get those, tune in for that last 5 minutes or whatever it is. It's just an unbelievable tournament. And I love seeing guys. It's so refreshing to see high-level basketball away from the, let's say, the barriers to purity that are presented in the NBA. Things like money, things like, your brand.
Well, I mean, you're saying money. You're saying money now, but I mean, like with these, college kids getting paid these days. I mean,
right, but that's just this year, and that's a whole other story. But historically speaking, I mean, it's just been an unbelievable tournament. Always has unbelievable moments, and it just is a pure representation of the game as much as it can be in commercialized society that we have today. So I love it.
I definitely appreciate all of your opinions and so on, but I think that there is something like with Michael Jordan and North Carolina, and you think about all those 4-year guys that went to the Dukes, and the established, like Magic Johnson in all those years ago with Michigan State, Larry Bird with North Carolina. Is it the same romance with a Carmelo Anthony in Syracuse? He won the championship there, and I mean, it was 1 year. He claimed the ultimate in that 1 year, but in the whole thing of Carmelo Anthony, it just seems to be, and believe me, I don't put Carmelo Anthony on the top of that echelon in terms of stardom. I don't. He's not a legend. He's not in LeBron's category. He's not in Kobe's category. I'm sorry. There might be some people, maybe one of you guys might disagree with me, but Carmelo Anthony's tenure in Syracuse, I mean, I don't put it in the same realm as Jordan's in North Carolina. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I get what you mean, Randy, but I would counterpoint that by saying that when a player right out of high school, a top-level player, top ranked player like Carmelo, even if he has a 1-year career, or another example, Anthony Davis, 1-year championship in college. There's others guys that we could name here, but these guys come in, they're immediately prime players from a college perspective, even if they're freshmen, these level players. And so you're in a title window right now if you get Carmelo, even for that 1 year. If you get AD for that 1 year, many of those Kentucky teams that did not win championships, because it's really hard in March Madness to go unfaltered, even if you're amazing. So you're still getting that sort of that prime. And I mean, look at Kawhi Leonard with the Raptors. Even though he may not have a relationship with us, that's more about who he is as a guy rather than, I think, anything else, because we still love it. The Raptors loved that team, the 2019 team. That's our fondest memories. And so all of those Syracuse fans or those Kentucky fans for Melo and AD, they're going to have a relationship with the team itself, even if the star player only was there for a year.
Yeah, and I also to counter that and also add on to that point, just because you went to school for a year doesn't mean you distance yourself from the university. You're like once a Duke Blue Devil, always a Duke Blue Devil. Like you're going to be part of Mike Krzyzewski's legendary list of players. Now, one thing to add on to this again is that we see this in the men's side of things where we see a once in a generation type prospect come out of college and they come out of high school and they go straight to college for 1 year and then they leave. But then there are other times, like I want to compare this to the women's side. The women's side, you will see women stay there for 4 or 5 years. I mean, look at what happened with Paige Beckers. UConn won the women's national championship. And then you get that iconic scene of Gino Auriemma embracing Paige and Paige crying. Like you and fans cry as a whole seeing that because you get to experience, you get to know these players, you get to know them, you get to see them perform for a long period of time. Like, why do you think we fell in love with Caitlin Clark when she was with the unit when she was with Iowa? It's the same type of concept. So I'm glad that we get this with the women, at least. The men, it's just like 1-2 years and then gone because the talent's there. You're NBA level ready. NBA players are talking about you. Like, that's all you need to know.
Yeah, that's a fair point. The reason I do think the reason that we see a lot of the women's college players, stay for 3 or 4 years, and the men's college players only stay for a year. The NIL money, you got to remember, like the WNBA players, their salaries are not nearly as inflated as the NBA salaries. The NBA salaries are crazy nowadays.
Right.
The kind of NIL money a top level women's college basketball player is going to get a Paige Beckers, a Caitlin Clark, is not that much different from what they're going to be making in the WNBA. In fact, it might even be more. So, but in the NBA, what a guy in the NBA, even as a rookie, a top level player, I'm talking about a guy like a Cooper Flagg and those guys. Their first year in the NBA, they're going to make more what they would make in NIL. Maybe not in year one, but eventually, a lot of guys get their second contract, like that first max after their third year in the league. And a lot of time it's 5 years, $240 million. So by the time it's their fourth year in the league, they're making $40-50 million a year. On the women's basketball side, I think we don't see that. So they're more inclined to go back because the NIL deal they're getting is the same, if not more, than what they're going to be getting. If not, it's just not worth it for them to come out early.
Right.
I think that's why we see that. But that's right. We really only get that feeling of like, oh, a guy stays for 4 years. It has this great storied career and then goes high in the NBA. It has a really good career. We haven't seen that. The last guy I can remember doing that is, I believe Tim Duncan did that at Wake Forest. He ended up being that's the last of these player of that echelon. Maybe a guy who's an average player did it, but like a top echelon player is the last guy that I can remember. That was at this point pushing 25 years ago.
Yeah, Neel, I believe Fred VanVleet went 4 years at Wichita State.
Right, but he wasn't a top-ranked player. He was undrafted.
Of course. Yeah, no, for sure. But, Jake, you mentioned you kind of danced around something that I want to throw it to you guys. And you mentioned, of course, that the WNBA contracts are what they are. And, of course, the WNBA schedule is what it is. They don't play an 82-game season. But obviously it's on the rise. And revenue is going to be on the rise. And to bring it back to a college sense, are we going to see one and dones in women's basketball in college? I mean, I don't see why not. I apologize. I don't know how many teams are in the WNBA, but maybe it's going to get to a point where there's mid-20 teams. Could they even get to 30? I mean, I think especially north of our border here, north of your border, excuse me, Vancouver, I think would be fantastic for the WNBA, and you could only imagine they're going to have an influx of expansion teams in the next few years. What do you guys think?
Go ahead. Well, to answer your question on the WNBA teams, they actually expanded to 14. They added one
14.
In Canada. I forget what area in Canada.
It's in Toronto. Toronto Temple.
It's in Toronto. So they added one in Toronto, and they added one in the Golden State area in California. So there's 14 WNBA teams. Now, as far as the one and dones in women's college basketball, that might be coming. And here's why. Because recently, the number one recruit from high school basketball, Aaliyah Chavez, who committed to Oklahoma, is seen as the next big thing. A 3-point specialist at the high school level, and when she comes to the college level and she goes to Oklahoma, she's going to propel that school to new heights. And I think she's going to say, you know what? I'm up for a challenge after 1 or 2 years, because women's college basketball, the stars, they want to get more money. They want more popularity. And you can see the WNBA is on the rise with the addition of Caitlin Clark. And when Paige Beckers goes there, it's going to it's going to skyrocket popularity-wise even more.
Mm-hmm.
And think of it in like 3-4 years' time. I don't know how long Aaliyah Chavez is going to stay in Oklahoma for. But when she goes, if you've seen her high school footage, she's box office Steph Curry-like attraction. That's how good she is.
Okay. Jake, I think you're about to say something.
I think we'll see it eventually. I'm not sure if it'll be super soon because I just think that again the NIL money they're going to get. I'm thinking like a top level, like a Caitlin Clark, like a Paige Buckers, the incoming player that Matt just mentioned. Because of how low the salary is in WNBA, I'm going back to that. However, Randy, you're right. The league is on the rise. You have a Caitlin Clark there, so you probably have a player like that. You have Paige Buckers coming into the league. She's, I would think, be the number one pick in the draft. Whoever this incoming player is for Oklahoma, next couple of years, we'll see her in the WNBA.
Sure.
Trending in the right direction. I think eventually we will see some one and dones in WNBA. They'll create more revenue. A lot of the players are saying that we got to create some sort of a CBA so we can get part of the revenue like the guys get in the NBA. And I think eventually the way the league is going, if they continue on this path, we will get there.
Yeah, and I just want to add, Randy, on a previous episode, when Caitlin Clark was actually, this was probably when she was getting drafted. So coming off that amazing near title run, championship game run anyways, but that's end of her storied career, that last year with her and Angel Reese sort of dominating headlines like women's sports hasn't seen, especially women's basketball. I kind of made a comment on one of the previous pods that this is sort of the women's version of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson from back in the day. And you think about, the women's game, it's sort of still it's maybe reaching that phase of the modern women's game now starting. Same way the modern NBA, the modern pro game started with Bird and Magic being drafted in a sense. And prior to that, you were seeing a lot more of guys spending multiple years in college. Jordan, Olajuwon, all of the stars that came before them, a lot of them doing that. There was not much of this one and done type stuff. That has only propelled since that modern era began. And so you read the tea leaves and you see that the progression of the NBA has only sort of predicted what the progression in the WNBA would be. And then now we're reaching to that point where they're not only going to go up in popularity, viewership, skill level, and watchability, but this is the biggest testament is to the fact that women are just becoming better ballers. Frankly, there's more of them playing, and there's more of them playing at high levels, which is extremely entertaining in many cases, and in more cases to come. And that's a testament to them as a whole. But part of that evolution is going to be seeing women ready to go, like perhaps the player that Matt was referring to, ready to go right after a year of college, ready to dominate at the next level.
And one quick thing on a side note, I don't know if you
Please.
all remember this. Remember during the COVID NCAA tournament when the women were given nickels compared to what the men were as far as like food and training equipment and gym, etc. I think that one moment sparked all of this because it basically said, hey, we have a platform too. We deserve some attention, if not some respect. And the fans listen, the committee of the NCAA listen, and the women have capitalized on that and have taken it to new heights.
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of an operating cost, the NCAA has really done female athletes a disservice. I mean, Maddie, you spoke about the peanuts that women were getting in terms of food stipends and the training facilities and so on, and we're seeing a lot of change now. I just hope Toronto doesn't get screwed over by not having a chance of picking first overall in the upcoming expansion draft, because Toronto and the Vancouver Grizzlies first year, I think the best they were able to get was 6th and 7th, which is where they drafted, right, Neel? Like they had no chance.
I believe we had 5th. Stoudemire went 5th.
No. I think Stoudemire went 7th. I think KG went 5th. and
Yeah,
Bryant
okay,
Reeves went
you're right.
sixth.
I think you're right.
But Toronto was not able. Toronto or Vancouver was not able to get first overall pick. And if the tempo gets screwed over again, I'm like, oh god.
Well, that would be a shame because
anyway, whatever.
Becker is a generational talent. She is generational.
That would be the next iteration of Vince Carter, especially in this country. If Paige Becker's not only gets drafted by Toronto, but then has that kind of career. But
maybe Neel Cole or Serena Williams can grease some wheels.
But speaking of those who's expected to have that kind of career, Jake, I mean, hey, Cooper Flag. It's all about Cooper Flag these days, and everybody, basketball fans and media, were just foaming at the mouth at this kid, just waiting for him to not only get to Duke but to thrive. He obviously did not make the championship game, but he is, of course, expected to be first overall pick and have a very solid career in the league. That being said, was there anything else that grabbed your attention in the tournament? I mean, when I think about this tournament, and granted, it's at a high level, like you think about the upsets and so on, but it was 4 number ones that made the semifinals. What stood out most for you, Jake, in this tournament?
What stood out most to me is I think this is what the expectation is going to be going forward. I think this is we're going to see a lot less upsets, unfortunately, going forward, and a lot of it has to do with NIL. You have a team that's I guess a Cinderella within the next season. Older main players are gone. They're at a bigger school. You see a lot of coaches nowadays. They're at a smaller school and then they jump to a bigger school. You saw it with Rick Pitino. He got a second chance at Iona. He's there maybe a couple of years. And yes, the program had some success under him. And then right away he jets for St. John's. He's held Will Wade he was at McNeese. He was at LSU. He had some stuff that happened. He gets let go. Get the second chance at McNeese. Before the tournament even started, he announced that he was gone. I don't even remember where he went. You see coaches doing this a lot. So not only are players doing it, coaches are doing it. I don't see us ever really seeing a St. Peter's as a 15th team going to the Elite Eight, or a Loyola Chicago having a deep run, or I think Syracuse a couple of times was like a 10 or 11 and went to the Final Four. I don't see us really ever seeing that again. I mean, the closest we got in this tournament, Arkansas is a 10 seed, was in the Sweet 16. They're also coached by John Calipari and are, to me, kind of built for March Madness. They were in a just deadly bad, just not bad, but deadly bad as in really good, just bad for them conference because the conference is so loaded in the SEC this year. And other than that, I think BYU as a 6 seed went to the Sweet 16. The Michigan might went to the Elite as a 5. So not a lot. I think it's going to be status quo going forward for this. Well, I saw that's what caught my eye, I would say.
But don't you think, do you think that the league will, the NCAA, will rescind NIL, or maybe alter it where mid-level and smaller schools can have a chance? Because there is a huge uptick when you do see the 15 beating the 2 and so on. I mean, look, I know that there's a long season before March Madness, and you want to throw in the bowl season and college football. I get it, but like I personally, and I think we're going to talk about it more in the show, but I don't want to see the same team win over and over and over again. I'm sorry. Like you take it from my perspective and from my country, like with the World Junior Hockey Championships. I don't know, Matt, Jake, let alone Neel, how much you follow that, but Canada is always dominant, and I want to see countries in Europe win the championship. I don't know if I'm alone on this one, but I mean, I don't want to see the same schools over and over again, the same teams. I don't want to see the Boston Celtics win 8 or 11 in a row like Bill Russell did back at the day. What about you guys?
I mean, well, first of all, NIL, all they got to do is something about it? No, they are not going to do that. There is a 0% chance of that happening. I do not see it. It brings in so much money for the NCAA, and the NCAA loves money. You saw with the college football playoff, like they expanded to 12 teams. For anybody that thinks, oh, it's a little bit too big. Well, too bad, because it's only going to get bigger because it brings in more revenue that way. So I don't see it. I wish they would put some like guidelines on it somehow and relegate it a little bit. But I do not see it happening. I think you saw Matt and I right away. We're like, no. But they are not going to do a single thing about NIL. Maybe could they regulate it a little bit so that I could see them maybe at some point if the transfer portal really gets out of control. Maybe they put some sort of cap on how many times a guy can do it. NIL, I don't see them doing a single thing about.
Listen. To quote Vince McMahon, there's no chance in hell that NIL is going anywhere. No chance. Because money talks. And money is powerful. And money can make people do insane things. Especially if you look at what happened with St. Peter's. As soon as they made it to the Elite Eight, boom, coach leaves for Seton Hall, his alma mater, because the Big East is a big-time conference. The MAC conference, no. And so, not only are you going to schools where the money is, you're going to a school that has a better chance to win a national title. Now, that's why we love these Cinderella stories and we cherish them more and more, because these schools get not as much resources. They don't get nearly as much attention. So when we see schools like McNeese beat Clemson and Clemson's held 13 points and a half, it's like, oh, my God, this is amazing. Now, granted, yes, upsets are amazing. But the problem is, like Jake said, we're not going to see that as often going forward. I think this year is the beginning of that, because we did not see, and you mentioned Arkansas. Arkansas was a crazy athletic team with a veteran coach that was in an incredibly dominant conference this year. But that doesn't really classify as a Cinderella. It really classifies as, how do I put this? Little brother getting the best of big brother. That's really what that was.
Yeah. And Neel, I don't know if you have any. I was going to ask you if Division I basketball needs to do something. I mean, look, obviously, you and I came from a generation where basketball, college sports, was a lot different. Everybody, all players ran the 4-year term, but that was a long time ago. And Matt and Jake said it themselves. Even you said it, that you're not overly affected by one and dones, and maybe NIL is the main reason why. And I don't even know if it's fair for me to say if there has been a drop in college basketball. I guess Neel, I believe you joined me for an episode. We had Damian Flowers and Ben Reynolds from Voice of the Fans, our American partners, and they didn't really have any horses. They didn't really have any interest in last year's crop of players that were going to be NBA draft eligible. And beyond Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey, who do we have here? Is there that list that included the 96 NBA draft with Kobe and Steve Nash and Stephon Marbury? I think Marbury was on. Yeah, Marbury was on that draft. Do you think Division I, especially on the men's side, needs to do anything to gain interest, or is everything still?
I really don't think so right now, because they've already. I mean, the NIL component of things is already a massive tweak. It's going to take years to really know what the true effects of that have been. We haven't seen that yet. We're maybe starting to see it, but from the points that Jake and Matt are making about transfer portal issues, about different components related to the coaches and everything like that. But we're not going to feel the effects of that for many years. What I do know is that viewership was up compared to last year, so that's immediately an indicator that the game is in a pretty good place compared to the NBA, where the ratings are going down every year. The college game is still going up every year. and the product is still fantastic. Like this tournament, even though yes, it was much more chalk, it had the requisite amount of moments, and particularly the Final Four was incredible. One of the better Final Fours I've ever seen, and perhaps that doesn't happen if the whole field has more parity. I do think NIL, as these guys alluded to, all of these changes is going to create a more top-heavy league when you consider the NCAA as an entire league. And that is probably going to make for better Final Fours, but maybe not as good tournaments as a whole with the fact that Cinderellas are one of the best parts of the tournament.
Right.
And again, as far as NIL, look, once you roll a snowball down a hill, there's a certain point at which that snowball ain't stopping. And that has reached this point already. Just to get to the fact that NIL was implemented, the snowball already got too big for anyone to stop it. And it's just going to keep on rolling and getting bigger and bigger. And the manifestations of that are just going to keep getting more profound.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, maybe NIL is, that freight train that there's nothing they could do because money makes the world go round. And, Maddie, I was going to ask you about the women's tournament. Paige Becker's left on top as the Huskies won the women's Division I. And, I think it's very fair to say that the women's, not only in March Madness, but just basketball as a whole has just is seeing is reaching uncharted heights, and they're only continuing to rise. I don't know. I guess in a general sense, what does this mean? I guess in terms of a WNBA, I don't know off the top how many games the WNBA is how I think it's like 35 games they play.
Isn't it something like 40 or 66 or something like that?
If it is 66, okay, that's something. But could it be possible? And I hate to put you on the spot like this, but
that's fine.
Why don't they have an 82 game season? Why doesn't women's the WTA? Why don't they go 3 of 5 sets like the ATP does? In tennis for the Grand Slams. They obviously their season is during the summer, but if they spread it out, there's definitely going to be some interest. Beyond women going one and done. Sorry, Maddie. Beyond women going one and done, maybe in the future, could we get to a point where WNBA has a 70, 82 game season?
All right. Well, now it's going to be weighing on my mind how many games the WNBA plays. I guarantee you it's like.
Well, actually, I'll tell you what. Let me try and I'll try and Google it while you spit out your wisdom here.
That's no problem. So there's a little phrase that we all hear. It's called "you walk or you crawl before you walk, and then you walk before you run, and then you run before you sprint." With women in sports, that's what we're seeing. And I mentioned a WWE quote earlier today. I'm going to reference WWE again. Remember back in the day when women were used as glorified eye candy for WWE at one point? Now look at them. We're seeing women have Royal Rumbles. We're seeing women have Iron Woman matches. We're seeing women go in Hell in a Cell. We're seeing women, have Money in the Bank ladder matches. Like, it's amazing. And I think, and it's been 3 sets for women in tennis for a long time. It's been 4 quarters for women for a long time, but again, shorter seasons. I think the reason why we're set with this for the women is probably because of what you're physically capable of doing. Women and men have different physical capabilities. That's just a fact.
Okay.
And I think they don't want to exhaust them like the men have. But then again, women have their own little tendencies and their own capabilities. Men have completely different capabilities. And I think we can all say that. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but that's just like the way.
I appreciate your candor here and your honesty. I guess I think the whole thing about crawling before walking. We're seeing a little bit of movement with women dunking in the NBA. Personally, I believe that there is a lot of validity for them to lower the net. Look, in the LPGA, their golf courses are smaller distances than in the PGA. I think that there is a ton of validity towards lowering a net. Yeah, sure, you're used to a 10-foot net, and maybe that gets altered, and maybe there's an adjustment period there. But I think that in terms of endurance, going the full stretch, I don't know. I mean, I think that, but I do have to say, now that it has come to me, because there's only so many teams, I don't know how much I want to see Team A, the Phoenix Mercury, play an 82-game season with 13 teams in the league. I think, seeing the team over and over and over again, maybe that might be a problem. But I mean, if they do get to 25 plus, obviously the season's going to expand. Right. I think that there is something to that, and I think it's going to be a lot more the norm. And with soccer, I mean, they play the same dimensions as the men, and I mean, I think women's soccer is really captivating football for sure. I'm really intrigued with how women's sports evolves over the next little while. And Toronto still better not get screwed like they did in the NBA when the Raptors got so hosed in that year. Anyway, but I definitely digress. Jake, I mean, one team that did not really get screwed during the offseason in Major League Baseball is the New York Mets. I mean, hello, Steve Cohen. I mean, look, I'm a nice guy, Steve. Why don't you throw over a couple $100,000 to your boy Randy? They made a massive. They made, we're seeing the second $700 million man, and that is, of course, Juan Soto. He signed for a 15-year ticket for $765 million. And Jake, you are a Mets fan, and you're proud of it. Why the hell is Juan Soto getting $765 million? I mean, what am I missing here? Like, he's been in, this is his 8th season. He's averaging 110 RBIs. Definitely nothing to sneeze at. He's got a 288 average. Pretty good. He averages around 29 homers, and he's worth $765 million.
First, I'll start by saying I don't think any player is worth $700. It's just that's such a huge number.
I'll say Shohei Ohtani though. I'll say
Ohtani,
I mean,
Ohtani maybe. And as for why he got the deal, look, that's obviously an extraordinary number, and I wasn't that surprised though that it was that high, just because the luxury tax threshold that once you go over it, you get penalized. It's with the new CBA that they did, it climbs every year. Second of all, Steve Cohen does not give a rat, what, about the when he bought the Mets, he was worth $14 billion. That was about 5 years ago. He's now worth $22 billion. So he's made $8 billion. He's gotten richer since he bought the Mets. So he just doesn't care. The guy's one of the best players in the league, and just the salaries have been climbing MLB for a few years now. There's a pretty big disparity between, your New York Mets and the New York Yankees and Los Angeles Dodgers, and even not even teams like the Pirates who spend no money, but teams like in the middle of the road, like the Minnesota Twins. Yeah. Like even a team like the Toronto Blue Jays, who obviously they've missed out on some bigger names over the last couple of years. Their payroll is not it's not like their payroll is 28th in the league. It's up there in terms of teams in the league. It's just that the Mets and the Yankees and the Dodgers, it's such a disparity. So as for why he got that contract, he's 26 years old. He's in his prime. He's one of the 5 to 10 best players on the planet, one of the 3 or 4 best hitters on the planet. He just had an amazing year with the New York Yankees. I mean, Matt is a Yankee fan, so he watched them all year. Got hit over 300. He hit 30-plus home runs, had over 100 RBIs, had an incredible postseason, was in the World Series, was really one of the only Yankee bats in that Yankee lineup in that World Series that really showed up. Aaron Judge certainly didn't. So I just, all these factors, it just was basically And it's because he's only 26 years old. If he was 31 years old, he obviously wouldn't have gotten 15 years. But because of all these situations, and also there's no salary cap in baseball, so you really can't be penalized for giving a guy an $800 million contract. Even if there was, I don't think Steve Cohen would care. In fact, he's going to give somebody $1 billion one day, and it might be in the next 5 years. The guy doesn't care. So there's no salary cap, all these factors. It fell right into place for Juan Soto, was basically able to just say he was basically able to write any number he wanted, and somebody was going to go to it.
Sure, and I completely get that 100%. And Neel, I'm sure you want to chime in a moment, but what is the ROI on a guy like Juan Soto? I get it. Steve Cohen, he has more money than God, and he doesn't care. And you said that multiple times, and I definitely agree. But at some point, I guess, like, you look at it in a holistic sense, like, where are we stopping here? I mean, we are going to talk about Vladimir Guerrero re-signing with the Jays in a moment, but how come a guy like him isn't getting $600 million? Because with Juan Soto, I'm not saying that he had ordinary numbers, but I think it's going to get to a point where a guy is going to earn $1 billion 10, 15 years down the road. And so it's, to me, and I get it. Juan Soto, he was a key piece for the Nationals when they won the World Series in 19. Thank you, Maddie. Was just testing you there. But I mean, but no, Jake, you mentioned that, Juan Soto was really stood out in the World Series. But isn't he just another, albeit above level star, borderline superstar in the league? I just don't see that kind of return on a guy like Juan Soto. Yeah,
I mean, I would say that he's a bona fide superstar, not a borderline. I'd say he's bona fide, but I do also think that Juan Soto was the beneficiary of certain circumstances. Number one, Ohtani just getting a massive deal done a year before. Number two,
you can't compare Ohtani to Soto.
No one's comparing Soto to Ohtani. But if Ohtani did not get a free agent deal, guess what? Soto's not getting anywhere near $700 million. So it's because Soto. It's almost like Ohtani unlocked a certain door that now everyone wants to punch through.
But isn't that apples and oranges, though, Neel? Isn't that apples and oranges?
It's apples and oranges, but when a contract is broken, like let's say, for example, in the NFL, when a certain running back door is opened and now the quarterbacks, it's set. All the inferior quarterbacks are going to be paid proportionally, and many of them are going to be overpaid when you compare them to how guys were getting paid a couple years before. But the guy who set the table, the Ohtani or the Josh Allen or whoever, those guys are not underpaid. It's the guys that they benefited that are getting paid after them that are possibly in many cases inferior to them, maybe by a lot. And this is the case with Soto versus Ohtani. No one's comparing. But he benefited from Ohtani getting a deal the year before. He also benefited from the fact that he had a great year with the Yankees. And he also benefited quite a bit from the fact that Cohen probably wanted nothing more than to stick it to said Yankees. So there was a lot of factors working in the favor of Soto, because I highly doubt that $700 million would be coming his way if he was still a free agent coming off a year with the Padres.
Maddie, I'm sure you want to chime in. I wish I was. I wish I wasn't so far away, so you could, so I could give that shoulder for you to.
All right. I've been holding a lot in. So first off, Juan Soto is a glorified hitter that has good at bats. You're giving a guy that can have good at bats more money than a guy who can pitch, hit well, steal bases, and by the way, is one of the best players in baseball. Juan Soto is a guy that is literally piggybacking on, and this is the trend that we see in sports a lot. he's piggybacking off of the fact that, like, oh, look at me. I had a phenomenal year. I was an MVP candidate. I led this team to a World Series with a phenomenal at-bat in the ALCS and yada, yada, yada. And I did well in the World Series even though my team lost. And Steve Cohen didn't even think he was going to pay that much money to Juan Soto. He didn't. And this is just a side quipper. I hate it when the New York media asks Juan Soto questions. Why'd you choose the Mets over the Yankees? Because then he just says stupid answer after stupid answer after stupid answer. And the Yankees are at the point now where they don't even care about you. We moved on from you. So rather than run your mouth and keep talking on us, put your head down, get the bat in your hand, and just play baseball. That's all I want. But anyway, back to this whole Juan Soto thing. We're going to see this more often. Like, when Ohtani got the $700 million contract, he deserved it. He absolutely deserved it. But it was also that case of, what have you done? Because look what you've done. Because now guys like Juan Soto, who had a phenomenal year, are going to ask for $750, $760, whatever. And then,
well, okay, but Juan Soto was a key piece for that Nationals World Series.
he was. Yeah, 6 years ago.
So
And first of all, considering how horrible Aaron Judge has been in the playoffs, I don't think they get to the World Series without Juan Soto. Again, this is something that he benefited from all of this. He benefited from having, every sport, if you're in a contract year and you have the best year of your career, I would say that was the best year of Juan Soto's career. The 19 year in Washington was incredible, and he's been a consistent top producer in the league. But I would say last year was the best year of his career. You're obviously going to get, your money's going to go up. I've heard a lot of ex-athletes talk about, like, in a contract year, the way they train is different, and just the way they go about their business is different. It's just, there's obviously more pressure there.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if something else that he benefited from, if not, just because he signed with the team that he signed with. Specifically, a whole thing with when you sign for the New York team is the New York media. He played in New York last year, so obviously that's not a concern. I don't know. I don't know if that was something that was looked at or not. A guy like that is probably less of an issue because of the caliber of player he is. But yeah, he benefited from all these factors for sure.
That's fair. I think also, I'm just thinking about this off the top of my head. I know Steve Cohen loves to throw money, and that's a guy that you would absolutely love to give you your paycheck. You could literally tell Steve Cohen, hey, I worked on the marketing for 6 months and we raised our views got 300% increase, and he'll give you $1 million bonus. Like that. That's the kind of guy Steve Cohen is. But I would love to have an owner like that. Hal Steinbrenner is the kind of guy that would literally just give you exact change when you could have just given a $20 bill for a chicken tender basket.
So yeah, he's not. Hal and Hank are not like Papa George, huh?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew that. I mean, I got that sense up here, and obviously George was not too shy. Maybe he was the original Steve Cohen.
George Steinbrenner,
Lots
what's
of
his soul?
Yeah, but hey, Maddie, I mean, obviously, as a Yankees fan, and beyond Juan Soto and, of course, Geritt Cole being lost for the season, you lost Clay Holmes, but added Cody Bellinger, Carrasco, Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, you lose A, but you kind of got A plus-ish. I mean, yeah, sure, you lose a couple of studs. I mean, yeah, Maddie, please.
Well, after a couple of days of being mad about not getting Juan Soto back,
we couldn't tell. You seem that you really held it with pride.
No, but to put a positive spin on my earlier frustration, one thing the Yankees did, and I give Brian Cashman and Hal Steinbrenner a lot of credit for this. They thought smarter, not harder. I know it's a business saying, think smarter, not harder, but that's what they did. Rather than spend your entire money and your foundation on one guy, what did you do? You got a starting pitcher, which was beneficial for Geritt Cole going down. You got outfielder. You got Cody Bellinger. You got a new first baseman in Paul Goldschmidt. Yeah, it's 1 year, but still it's something. You improved in other areas to spend your money, and you improved on all positions, not keeping a star to fulfill right field. Plus, you get Aaron Judge back in right field. So I think, yes, there's a lot of positives. Like, did losing Juan Soto stink? Yeah, it did for a little bit. It stung. But you know what? If you upgraded in other areas to improve what cost you the World Series, then that's what really matters. I mean, the one thing they probably couldn't have done was probably can Aaron Boone after costing them the World Series. But, I'm not going to complain too much about that. But again, like, if you improve in multiple areas, that's better than solidifying in one position. That's how I look at it.
And I completely agree, because it definitely seems that with baseball, I mean, hell, take a look at where Shohei Ohtani was before he got to LA. I mean, you had the two best players in Ohtani and Mike Trout with the Angels. And how did they do? Enough said. So, yeah, I mean, would have been cool if, hell, it would have been amazing if Shohei Ohtani found himself in Toronto. But, to spend that kind of money for one position, yeah, sure, maybe there would be a solid return, and maybe Toronto could blow its brains out with signing like they just did with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But Neel, sorry to be so roundabout about it, but what if Shohei Ohtani signed with Toronto and it was however many years, it's $700 million? I mean, would Guerrero's contract of 14 years, $500 million, would that number have been different? There was a lot of talk, especially with Guerrero and the Blue Jays being in Jake's ballpark, Citi Field, that there was a little bit of apprehension with Jays fans. Could Vladimir Guerrero Jr. find himself in New York? He even said that the Yankees were a possibility before he said that signing with the Yankees was not in his best interest. What did you make of the Guerrero signing? And are you happy that he's sticking around in Toronto?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy. And, I guess the major reason is, the deal is a win. For this reason, most of all, is that it would have been a complete catastrophe if he left. So from my opinion, I think catastrophe is not putting it too lightly, because, right now we have a best case scenario of a real contention window over the next few years. I think so. Now with he being possibly more locked in, and we know what he can do. He had actually a good season last year. He's been a top 2 MVP candidate in the past. The guy is a stud. There's some deficiencies in his game, and he still has room to get better. But when you have a player like this who has started his career off the way that he has, you can't let them go, especially if you're a star-starved market that keeps getting beat out or used by other teams and players, the aforementioned Ohtani, as basically trade bait, fodder, or negotiation patsies in them negotiating their own contracts, but ultimately just teasing us, and it extends to other sports, the Raptors in particular. Like, when we keep the guy that not only has started with us since he was 16 years old, but the guy who has always said he wants to stay with Toronto. In fact, he's been more loyal to Toronto than Toronto has been to him.
Well, and that's another thing very quickly, because how many times did the Jays take Guerrero to arbitration? And
that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
is that
exactly.
They had many chances to get a way more team friendly deal. They messed up those chances, and I say it's a win for the Jays and Jays fans, but I don't see it as a huge win for the Jays management, because they messed up not doing this a lot earlier and playing with fire over and over again, and now they got burned a little bit with this price tag. That being said, you had to do it. I mean, we're looking at a guy look, he's got a top 40 in MLB history for WRC plus, which is a major hitting statistic, all around hitting statistic, and I mean that's in history. And that means he's in elite company entering an age 26 season. That's what the stat was for. I mean, that's elite when you talk about certain things, and it also, I think, now that we have him locked up, it makes a lot of sense, or sorry to say, the other moves that we made this offseason make more sense now. For example, Andre Jimenez and Anthony Santander, these guys were never meant to be stars. They were meant to be complementary pieces. When you have stars, they play a role that's much more suited to them and what they can bring to the team. And it would have been just a tough thing to swallow if Vladdy left. And, what do we do with Bichette then? Because now I think it's pretty clear Bichette probably doesn't have a future with us, considering that our top prospect is also a shortstop. And, I mean, we'll just have to see how that goes. Maybe we do re-sign him. I'm not sure what their status is with that. But this type of deal, it washes away a lot of the sting that we experienced from being basically patsies in the Ohtani and the Soto adventures, off-season adventures. And, that's the positive spin on it. But the negative spin is very clear as well. Vladdy's, not the most svelte gentleman. And guys of his
he's toning it down. I mean, like
he's toning it down, but still, guys of his physique, of their relative rotundness, they generally are very good, but they have early, downturns. And we're talking about guys like the one that comes to mind, probably my favorite player in history is Albert Pujols. And he was better. He's better than Vladdy. He's going to be, Vladdy will never, in my opinion, reach the heights and the accomplishments that Pujols did. But Pujols had a significant downturn in his early 30s, and he became, an overpaid player when he was on the massive contract. There's a lot of cases you could point to, Prince Fielder. There's many more. And so I think there's a huge downside risk to the second half of this contract. But there's a big-time upside risk in the first half of the contract. And the fact that he loves Toronto, is a homegrown star, has all of the elite batting, at least statistics that you would want.
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. Oh, and I think Neel has just dropped out for a second. I'm sure he'll be back joining us shortly. But we will continue, guys. And we actually do have some breaking news and some very sad news to report that longtime NHLer Greg Millen has passed away at the age of 67. This just happened moments ago. Greg Millen did have a 14-year NHL career with over 200 wins. He played for 6 NHL teams, the Blues for the majority of that time. He also spent time with the Whalers, Penguins, Blackhawks, Quebec Nordique, and the Detroit Red Wings. There hasn't been an official cause of Greg Millen's passing, but very sad to hear. Greg Millen has passed away at the age of 67. And guys, we will jump right into hockey. It will be interesting to see what Vladdy will do, Neel, of course, for our Toronto Blue Jays. And regarding the NHL, and would be interesting, actually, no, it won't really, if somebody will surpass the Washington Capitals all-time goal-scoring record, because, of course, that will be Alexander Ovechkin. He is on tops. He is tops of the NHL goal-scoring world, surpassing Wayne Gretzky on Sunday against the New York Islanders. Neel, we do know that you do have an appreciation for hockey, of course, but other sports take precedence, for lack of a better term. And this was quite a record. And it was on a lot of Canadian sports media, and I'm sure Matt and Jake will chime in on what the response is in the U.S. And it looks like Neel has had an issue again with his connection. He'll join us in a moment. But Matty, start with you. How was the coverage in the United States with regards to this goal scoring run? It seems that hockey's getting a little bit of traction these days.
Well, the coverage in the United States for Alexander Ovechkin, the Great Eight chase was pretty well followed and well documented, and people tuned in. A lot of people have probably tuned into a Capitals game just to see Ovechkin see if he scored a goal or 2 goals or even a hat trick. And it's funny because you were on Sports Symposium, a show that I do twice, and each time you were on, we talked about Ovechkin's pursuit of breaking Gretzky's record. And the first time you came on, it was after Ovechkin got injured. He had his 5 to 6 weeks with a leg injury. And initially we thought, well, it was a disappointment because we thought that this would be a detriment or a path or a barrier of him for him to break the record. Turns out that was not the case. And that's great because you want to see records fall, especially one held by Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player of all time, undisputed. And I remember the second time you came on Sports Symposium, you also said that you'd bet all my money that Ovechkin was not going to rest until he broke the record, even if he had to play another season.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. But I followed this frequently, and I love watching the Capitals play, not just from a hockey standpoint, but watching them as a team, feeding him the puck every now and then to try and get him to go 1 goal closer to the record. Watching them show sportsmanship to guys like Marc-Andre Fleury or even like the Chicago Blackhawks, showing sportsmanship. That's the kind of class that a team as a whole, whether it's hockey or basketball, whatever the sport is, that's the kind of sportsmanship you should have. And I think Ovechkin personifies that, and I think it rubbed off on the entire team. And when the youngsters like Ryan Leonard on the Capitals, they see this kind of class, that I think is the most amazing thing that you can see from a team. And if the Rangers don't win the Stanley Cup, I'm hoping the Capitals do it as well.
Well, before we bring in Jake, I think one thing, if you guys remember, this was a long time ago when Ovechkin was warming up his hands after he scored a goal. He put his stick on the ice and he was pretending the stick was a campfire. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. I think that is fantastic gamesmanship. I mean, hockey is such an intense game. These guys have zero personality. Ovechkin did what he did. I believe it was against Tampa. I want to say mid 2000s. Whatever it was. It was just awesome, but he got chirped so hard. We didn't see that, and now we're seeing a little bit more flair. I think I think you are completely right, Matty. I mean, obviously with the sportsmanship, giving flowers to Marc-Andre Fleury, it was fantastic. But no, I mean, he had some panache for sure. And Jake, with the Four Nations Faceoff, which we'll definitely get into in a few moments, it is really, really frustrating that this tournament was mid-season, just like the Olympics. With the World Cup, the last one was 2018, and it's been sporadic ever since it was the Canada Cup. That summer tournament was the perfect time. It's not interrupting with the NHL season. I mean, for the Sochi Olympics, John Tavares, he was injured in that tournament, was lost for the rest of the year. Now there's so many injuries that took place after Four Nations. Everybody gave it their all, And Ovechkin did not play in this tournament, of course, because Russia and Russian players were not invited. And the three of us, and as well as Neel, we know that he would have gone full tilt beyond if Ovechkin and Russia played in the Four Nations. I'm of the opinion, though, that if he did play, breaking the goal scoring record wouldn't have happened. What do you think, if you had a crystal ball?
I still think it would have happened just because the caliber player that Ovechkin is. The guy is 38, almost 39. He missed 5 weeks with injury, and he still has 43 goals this season. He still broke a record that was completely unbreakable. I mean, there were plenty of top tier players in that tournament, from Connor McDavid to Sidney Crosby to Matthew Tkachuk, and their performances really didn't dip to my knowledge. A couple of guys got hurt, but that could have happened in an NHL game. Like you said, the timing was perfect because it was the scheduled NHL All-Star break, so it actually kind of worked out that way. I still think he would have gotten the record. Unless
You do because
unless he got hurt again.
Please, sorry, please, Jake. Go ahead.
I was just saying, unless he got hurt again, I don't think it would have affected him at all.
Well, I mean, he missed so much time with that leg injury, and like you said, he's 30, touching 39 years of age. And
yes,
look, I get it. LeBron is over 40, and he's LeBron is one of the top players in the NBA. As we welcome back Neel, but I think that if you compare Leon Draisaitl to Connor McDavid in terms of what his battery charge is, like Draisaitl, I think benefited from the Four Nations break and all the Czech players and the enter all the Danish players and so on. And because it's been so long since, I guess it would have been 2014 since Ovechkin represented Russia, whether he participated in the World Championships during the NHL playoffs, he was going to go like a freight train. And no, I mean, look, this is an impossible question, but especially to Neel and to Jake and Matt, how disappointed are you with international hockey taking a back seat? Like the World Cup, it's so sporadic. And I mean, we're talking 2 tournaments since 2004. Why not have this every 4 years? I mean, you two, I could put you two in the same level as, say, an Austin Matthews and a Connor McDavid who never represented their country. I mean, yeah, sure, there was the Olympics, but you guys never saw World Cup hockey, really, except for 2016. Yeah. I mean, you guys are hockey fans. I mean, how disappointing is that? Or do you guys even notice?
Jake, you want to take this one?
Sorry to put you on the spot.
With like the World Cup of hockey and the Olympics, it's cool. It's a fun tournament. Personally, I like when the NHL winter went to the Olympics. I believe that was in Sochi in 2014. That was really the last time we had best on best before the Four Nations.
Correct.
It was an exciting tournament. The U.S. got pretty close. Obviously the shootout and TJ Oshie were exciting, but I didn't like that they put it in the middle of the season because you took 3 weeks off because this is obviously the Olympics. So there was no NHL hockey for 3 weeks. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. The Four Nations was obviously not as long, so that's why it kind of worked out. So for me, having the World Cup of hockey or sending players to the Olympics in the middle of the season and taking 3 weeks off in the middle of the season, I was not in favor of. But however, if you find a way to do it, maybe right after the season, and you're able to do it safely, guys aren't getting hurt, doesn't affect guys going into next season, I would love to see that, and I would watch that. It's a very exciting tournament, the World Cup of hockey. Same thing with if you send players to the Olympics. The Four Nations was exciting, but for me, I didn't like that they took, like, for example, 3 weeks off to send players to the Olympics in 2014.
Yeah. Maddie, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the NHL as a whole really shouldn't put stuff on ice, if no pun intended.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of international play. I mean, international play, it's kind of like it's important because you're representing your country. And we've seen players in the NHL, want to go out and be patriotic, support their country, but that doesn't mean that it hurts the NHL in their season and what they do for a living, because it's their pride, it's their passion. This is what they love to do. But playing for your country, that's a whole other level than playing for a Stanley Cup trophy. I could say that, like, wholeheartedly. But just imagine, like, if during baseball, flipping sports here, imagine if baseball put their season on hold during the Summer Olympics in like 2024, 2028, and baseball players were to go to wherever the Olympics were being. Well, it's going to be in California in 2028, but so I guess they could do that then. But
And
just
it's
imagine,
aren't they, Maddie? Sorry, aren't they thinking about baseball for Brisbane 2032?
that is correct.
Yeah. So this is going to happen for Major League Baseball in 2032, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Please, sorry, go ahead, continue.
So, like, right now, like, to put this in perspective, let's just say baseball in 2032 paused their season because they were sending major league players to play for the Olympics, to play for a gold medal. That should be an exemption from pausing the season. That should be an exemption from your job, because playing for a gold medal is everything. That's worth more than playing for 5 consecutive World Series titles. Like, that should be the same should go for hockey. You should never, ever, ever pause something just because you're playing for a gold medal. Now, I don't know if scabs are the answer, but again, like, you should, but you should find some type of creative way to at least make it plausible for players to play during an Olympic break. That's how I see it.
You know, Maddie, I think, however, and obviously the schedule for Brisbane 2032 hasn't been confirmed yet, but because the seasons are so different, like their summer is in December, January, and so on, like there, and if I remember, Neel, there's probably no way that you're going to remember. I believe the Sydney Olympics in 2000 was in the 3rd week of September. So if the Olympics in Brisbane is in November, that is a perfect time for Major League Baseball to send players to the Olympics. I don't know if it's going to happen, though. That would be amazing. But I mean, like, this is speculation, because I don't know if Brisbane is going to have their Olympics in November, December. I think, yeah, that would be something, because World Baseball Classic, I think, is fantastic theater.
Yes.
And yeah, I love it. I don't know why it's in March. It should be in November. It should be in December.
Problem for sure. It's a little tough because obviously you can't put it in the summertime because it's the middle of the season. You really can't put it at the end of the or right after the season because of the NFL, which is the only issue with November. You know, it would be even worse if you did it in December. So it's kind of tough. Look, the quality of the games is incredible. Those games were great. You had just so many great games, so many great moments. So the problem is if a guy gets hurt, they could miss the entire season. Like obviously we saw it with the Mets with Edwin Diaz.
Yeah.
Years ago, that was a big blow to the Mets because he was coming off an historic year as a relief pitcher, and so anyone who gets hurt, if you get hurt, 2 weeks before the season, if you have a really bad injury, you're not playing that season, and the game that didn't count towards the team's record. However, if you do it in November, maybe they can at some point get back, so that does that too. But the World Baseball Classic is phenomenal. It's great. Just the timing, unfortunately, is very, very poor. It should not be right before the season.
Right.
It's no spring training. It makes no sense.
Well, and here's another question I'm going to spring on you boys, and I'm really, really sorry to do this for the 3 of you. And Jake, I completely, it's obvious that it's football season, November, December. The games are on Sunday, Monday, Thursday. Can you have the World Baseball Classic on Thursday, avoid Sunday? Is that possible? Let's say work around the NFL season, especially. I think that you could have a World Baseball Classic in November or early December, not have it on Sunday, but Thursday and Monday, I mean, sometimes those games are hit and miss, aren't they?
I mean, Thursday, a lot of these games are not good. I think it's done on purpose because the games are only on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
Monday, most of those games are good for the most part. Obviously, Sunday is Sunday. When it comes to your question, you might be able to pull that off if you avoid Sunday and Monday, maybe. Logistics-wise, can you even do a tournament that way to where you're when you're not playing on Monday or Sunday? I don't know.
No, we don't know. No, we don't know.
That's possible. Look, I would watch I'm a diehard baseball fan. I would watch the World Baseball Classic. I don't know about somebody else. I can only speak for myself. I would. I mean, will I watch it on Sunday? On Sunday, probably not. So again, you're going to have to avoid that. But that's probably the only way around it. But if there is a way around to do it that way, I think that would be better doing it in March.
Yeah, Neel, I hope everything is okay on your end. I know that you've had a little difficulty. We've been, talking hockey, and Matt and Jake has just completely railroaded this conversation. They just completely taken it off the road. But we're talking a little hockey here, and why don't we get into the Four Nations face-off here, guys? Obviously, it's been a long time since we've had a good international competition. And unfortunately, one of the big, contenders to win any sort of international hockey tournament, Russia, was not a part of this tournament. But we digress. And it was during the NBA All-Star Weekend, which I'll definitely throw in my comment in a minute. But Jake, it has been getting close to 6 weeks since the final. Between Canada and the United States, and there was a lot of buzz we could see in Canada regarding the United States and hockey. I mean, they just fell in love with this tournament. And, now that we're 6 weeks past, has the tempo continued? Has the momentum continued? Is the U.S. And obviously, we know that there is a following towards hockey, but it's not the same as football and basketball, baseball. Has hockey picked up momentum?
I would say it has a little bit. I do think NHL is pretty popular in the United States. I don't think it'll ever be as popular as it is in Canada. I mean,
Sure.
Toronto, just forget it. How popular? I'll say the two of you know best, but it's. I would say it's definitely the attendance. I don't know what the attendance numbers are, but it has been an exciting second half of the season. The Ovechkin race that we talked about earlier also helped. I think a lot of us were glued to that. Matt mentioned that he was pretty glued to it. I think all of us were. I was glued to the Four Nations. A lot of people here in the States were. Whenever someone was in the Discord channel that Randy, Matt, and myself are in, or on podcasts like this, whenever someone based in Canada was like, "Oh, you people in the States, you might be missing this." Like, trust me, I am not watching the Minnesota Pistons over that, and everyone was like, I am not watching.
But Jake, respectfully, there's a lot of people in your country that were missing it, and they caught on with. Hey, when you have 3 fights in 9 seconds in the preliminary game, people were seeing this great product. Beyond yourself, though, with our respect, of course, a large number of people in the U.S., don't really have that appreciation like you and Matt does for hockey.
And that is true. And one thing that bothered me, there were some people from not the States who were like, "Oh, people in the States, you're watching the NBA. You're watching the NBA All-Star Weekend, or it's not even the All-Star Weekend anymore. It's a joke." Trust me, no one was watching that absolute crap show that they call the NBA All-Star Game. Nobody was watching that. Everyone was watching the Four Nations, okay? Nobody over here was watching LeBron James and his old ass who can't retire fast enough today. Freaking dribble up the court and shoot a 40-foot shot off the side of the rim. Nobody was watching that crap.
I'd love to see the ratings, Jake. I don't know. I'd love to challenge you on that.
I guarantee you, nobody over here was watching over the Four Nations. And if they are, get them some help immediately, because, brother, you need some help. Stop it. Get some help, as the Michael Jordan meme would say. Nobody was watching over. But yes, people over here, we watch the Four Nations, and I do think it's led to a little bit of an uptick in watching hockey. It's been, at least for me, and maybe it's a little more because of the Ovechkin chase, but this, I would say, since the Four Nations got a little more attention over here.
Yeah.
To add on to
please,
point,
Maddie. Yeah.
To add on to Jake's point, I went to a bar for karaoke, and they had the Four Nations tournament on every single TV.
Okay.
Nobody cared about the NBA All-Star game. No one cared
Northeast
about
U.S. I mean, that's a little different, right?
yeah. But again, like if something big is going on, would you rather watch? Would you rather watch a scab game or would you rather watch an actual championship tournament? It doesn't matter what the sport is, and I like hockey a lot, so it really does. Like I said, I'd rather watch this is just a play reference. I'd rather watch a 2-hour play than a dress rehearsal. That's basically just the way to put it. Like that's the real thing. The real deal is the Four Nations tournament. And you saw people in that. I saw people in that bar dressed in red, white, and blue, watching, anticipating a goal because it was U.S. and Canada. Like that's what people live for, especially because it's a country thing. Like I'd rather watch something related to our country than watch dude do a slam dunk contest and play a cheap 4 broadcaster tournament that was the NBA All-Star game. Like that's what I feel like is more important. Your country comes before anything. And I think that's why people tournament.
But I guess the reason why that I'm so intrigued about this, guys, is because in the areas that you live, wherever that is, like within New Jersey, Jake, now you're in Connecticut at school, and your hometown is on Long Island. What was the tempo like in Harlem? What's it like in Nebraska? What's it like in these states that don't have pro hockey? And that's what I'm more intrigued about. And, we are seeing, guys like Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes coming from states like Arizona. And, I guess the reason why that I'm just so intrigued is that, we all are creatures of habit. And Steph Curry, I mean, LeBron even flaked out during the All-Star game. And, that just is, that speaks for itself. But people are still, they're going to go what they're familiar with, right? And that was All-Star Weekend. I mean, it's still a sellout. And actually, Jake, to answer your question with regards to ratings, now I just grabbed this random website and I have no reason to think it's false. You got a rating of 2.6. 5.4 million viewers were watching. Oh, this was last year's All-Star game. Excuse me. I don't have this year's ratings numbers. But I mean, in terms of I wouldn't be surprised if it was lower. I wouldn't be. But I don't know how much higher it was for the Four Nations. Neel, I don't know if you wanted to chime in on what the three of us have been chatting about, but I guess, Neel, the two of us were too young to remember the Miracle on Ice in 1980. But, for somebody like myself who, is all about sports and, the sports issues that are away from the ice, the field, the court, whatever. The United States lost an incredible opportunity in really, really blowing this game up after the Miracle on Ice. And, you beat the Red Army in your home land and soil in Lake Placid, New York. And, the New York Islanders won those 4 cups. And still, it's so low on the chain. I don't know if you have any comments regarding this, but
you just mean hockey in general, low on the chain in America?
Well, yeah, compared to, I mean, I don't know how much NASCAR is in, where Jake and Matt live, but NASCAR, especially a couple of years ago, was really on fire. Look at golf. I mean, with PGA. I mean, if you poll all sports fans in the U.S., if they would rather watch a PGA tournament, say on a Friday or Saturday, moving day, versus an above average in terms of interest hockey game, say it was the Rangers and I don't know, the Avalanche or whatever hometown team, I think that they're still going to choose the PGA.
Yeah, I mean, what I say to that is that, American sports has always been more towards the sort of the warm weather sports, basketball and football, primarily baseball as well. Those 3 sports. Hockey's always been sort of the little brother to those 3. And part of that is just because it's a cold weather sport. It's it's associated with the Scandinavian people, Canadians, icy countries, basically. But every American city where there's a team still has its diehard population, diehard fans, and those guys come out and show out in the playoffs, in the regular season. There's strong fan bases littered across the states. It's just hasn't become as mainstream as those other sports as far as American culture. And I do think that with the way that the American team performed in this Four Nations tournament, it really was an eye-opening performance from an American pride perspective. And I think that in and of itself is the biggest thing. They got a team with a lot of grit, toughness, and skill. And it really showed. Even though Canada came out on top, it was a coin flip the whole way through. And at certain points, it really looked like Canada was not the overdog in this tournament, that it was the States. And so I think it's fantastic. It was a great tournament. I agree with you. When a team is dominant in a certain game, it's good to see other countries or other teams. Parity is good, whether you're on an international scale or a professional scale. And the same thing you could look from the U.S. perspective in basketball. And the fact that parity among the world in terms of basketball, which was highlighted at this Olympics, it wasn't just America just roughshotting their way through the entire thing. There was a lot of times where they were tested and possibly could have lost. Serbia, they already lost to Canada in the Worlds. So there's a lot of things. And
no, that didn't count. That didn't count. USA had
but it's still fantastic for the game. It's fantastic for the game when you see that the Olympics, to be honest, the Summer Olympics and the basketball therein was a lot more interesting to me than the NBA playoffs that came right before that. And also this NBA season that has happened so far. I thought the basketball was high level. It was just unbelievable. And if there's one way that I'm going to say, if there's any way that they can save the NBA All-Star game, which I do not think there is a way, by the way.
I think there is. I definitely think there is.
Well, I think the only way would be America versus the world.
No, well, yeah. I mean, I've been preaching that forever, but please, Neel, continue. I'll chime in.
Yeah, but again, when you talk about, what is it that motivates a person? Well, I'll be honest. It's nothing the NBA can really do. It's going to be either the players or not the players that determine the success of the NBA All-Star game. Because, like you say, these hockey players in the Four Nations tournament, that's a tournament where they're really going for pride and hunger for a championship, a legitimate championship that they can hang on their trophy case very proudly. That means a lot, and that had meant a lot to a lot of fans. But in the NBA, if you want to give the fans a good show, you got to have the guys ready to have that mindset. Like, for example, why were NBA All-Star games so good in the early 90s, late 80s? In the 80s and 90s, the NBA All-Star game was not the joke it is today. It was actually
I think it has something. Sorry, I think it has something. I think it has a lot to do with the contracts, and these guys have better things to do.
I think it has more to do with the fact that players were not friends; they were professional enemies back then, and there was a lot of disdain for each other.
Sure.
There was perhaps a lot of jealousy and envy for the other man's success, for him being above you in the totem pole. And then you had the top dog, Michael Jordan, who was the most competitive of all of them. And would seek competition out in the most mundane of circumstances, by all accounts. Now you have guys who just want to be each other's friends, and the supposed next guy in line in terms of GOAT, LeBron James, has never wanted to be an adversary. He's always wanted to be a friend to all of these guys.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know if I've interrupted so many times. I don't know if I like what I'm doing here. But anyway, but with regards to Michael Jordan, beyond Isaiah Thomas, who did he hate?
Everybody.
Have you heard the Kobe story?
No.
Watch The Last Dance.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant was 19 years old. He's wearing Jordan shoes. And then Jordan went up to him and said something to the you can put the shoes on, but you're never going to be me. And this is a 19-year-old kid. Jordan is in well into his 30s. Kobe is 19 years old, I believe, in his first All-Star game, and he says that just because Kobe is wearing his sneaker brand. So yes,
I'm sure.
And
Okay.
not only that, even LeBron James told a story recently to Pat McAfee in the last couple of weeks that he asked him, why do you and Jordan not have any type of relationship? And LeBron gave probably his most candid answer to that question he's ever given. He said, because Jordan doesn't want to have a relationship with me while I'm still playing. When he doesn't have to look at me putting on what he considers his number 23 jersey, then we'll probably have a relationship after that. So even to this day, the psychotic nature of Michael Jordan is probably a big detriment to his life right now, I have to say. But
wait a minute. Michael Jordan was in his late 30s, if not 40, and LeBron James was a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the only relationship is that Jordan would have to buy LeBron beer during his first couple years in the league. Like, what are you gonna? What kind of camaraderie are you gonna have with a 19-year-old kid?
I guess the point I'm trying to make is that when you have the psychotic nature of certain guys that fuel a large part of what the league is, and if that bleeds into something like so mundane and pointless as an all-star game, then you are going to get fantastic theater. Whereas today, you just got guys that are more concerned with, not getting injured and not really playing the game itself, but rather going to the weekend for their own personal benefit or gain or, connect. Connecting with others or socializing. They're not interested in the game. And until that gets fixed, and I don't know how you're going to do it, the game has no hope, really.
Yeah. Sure. Last before we tie a bow into hockey, and there was so much with regards to, this new event involving international play. It was the first time that these future leaders of the league, the McDavids, the Matthews, the Nylanders, throw in Sasha Barkov, got to represent their country at the pro level. But obviously, Maddie, there was a huge emphasis with everything going on between Canada and the United States. And you have to think that the political emphasis that took place with the four nations had something to do with it as well. I think that my heart did hurt a little bit when Canada lost to the United States in Montreal.
Right.
And if it wasn't for Jordan Binnington, my lord, I want to tattoo his name on my lower back. I mean, the guy was incredible in the overtime. But I have always felt that the political cloud around the Trump with the tariffs and Trump calling the US team to rev them up, presidents and world leaders like prime ministers, even when the Jays won the World Series all those years ago, that's been a practice forever. I think that, and with everything going on between our country and yours, that it added so much more flavor to the four nations. And bringing in Colin Kaepernick and Tim Tebow and all these political items that star athletes and athletes bring to the forefront, I know we live in a polarized society. Yeah. I still want to see more of it. What about you?
Well, listen, sometimes outside noise can contribute to more intensity and more spice towards a contest or a championship or something along those lines. I think the thing with me is I try not to focus on the outside noise. I try to focus on the sports aspect of things. And if you focus on just the sports aspect of things and not outside noise, you would know that the U.S. and Canada in hockey have been butting heads for years upon years upon years, where Canada is the gold rush of hockey, and the U.S. is trying to reach and surpass Canada in that sense. And to me, it's been that way for years. And the U.S. had a stacked team going into the Four Nations tournament. But I will say, what's going on politically with the tariffs and our president basically saying what he's been saying and all that. It kind of did add fuel to the fire. Now, was it called for? Not entirely. I understand it though. I mean, but that's
what wasn't called for? Obviously, the tariffs. I mean, obviously that hurts us. But I mean, I'm not talking about that. But I mean, talk about like the actual event itself. Like, forget about everything that's happening tariff wise, but just with the sport itself and everything going on.
Yeah,
I thought it just brought so much more intrigue.
It did. It did add fuel to the fire. And you know what? That's fine. I mean, people can always find ways to make something out of nothing. And this was already something before outside noise kicked in. And I think that's what really factored into this high anticipation and the drama and the excitement going into the championship and even the Four Nations tournament whenever the U.S. and Canada played. Like, that's what brought more to it. You mentioned flavor. That's what it did.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know that, especially with politics, that there is a lot of, how dare you? And look, there was a time where, it was rather difficult to hear another opinion, but then, what else are you supposed to do? Like, in terms of appreciating another side of the other side of the aisle. And I'd love to see acceptance when it comes to different views, because look, I definitely don't agree with Tim Tebow. He should have that ability to say whatever he wants and not get vilified for it. And I think that there was a huge issue when it came to the entertainment world and, how many people were blacklisted on, for supporting conservative views. If I may ask you guys, well, I don't even know if it's worth it, but I mean, like, I understand that it is very polarizing in college scenes with regards to protesting and so on. And do you think that there is a chance, like maybe not so much in sports, but that people are going to get used to a different opinion, accept it, have a chat, like the four of us are talking right now?
I mean, I would hope so. Look, I don't give a what about politics. I don't even like. I can't even speak on the tariffs, even if I was affected by them. I don't follow. I just simply don't care enough. I don't. I really don't follow. As for the question you asked me, I would hope so. Unfortunately, we are in a society that's more sensitive than it has been in the past, and unfortunately, people giving their opinions and just people acting normal and either like hearing them out like they should, and if they disagree with them, like respectfully, like the four of us have done this evening. Unfortunately, for some reason, that's kind of gone away in today's society. I don't know why it has. I'm not sure if it has has anything to do with, but I would hope so. The way things are going, and just certain people, and just people I've interacted with, and probably we've all interacted with in our lives, I'm a little skeptical. But I hope that what is happening right now becomes more of the norm going forward.
Yeah, and then me personally, I mean, I think that a disarray of opinions or a wide variety of opinions and personalities has always been the in sports and society at large. Sports just being a large segment of society culturally, But like, I mean, I think free speech has been there in the games in North America. This is one of the shining pillars of North American free society, is that free speech is better than it is in other places here. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying it's better. And you got to look at Harrison Butker, and the comments that he made. highly, I don't even know how to term them, but many could argue that he was disparaging women and their role in society and saying pretty well that they should just be housewives. Again, I'm paraphrasing here, but he went off on a very, very far right wing tirade at a commencement speech or whatever it was. And there's a lot of people that had issues with what he said, but guess what? He's a great kicker, and he was suiting up and went right back to the Super Bowl because he's a great player at his position. And so it doesn't really matter what he thinks when it comes to the fact that he can boot a football with the best of them. And the same goes for most people. We've seen it with Colin Kaepernick. He was blacklisted. That was political more than anything else. We've seen the other side of it too, where people do things more egregious than him, and they don't really pay the same price. But it's always
well. Answer this question for me, Neel. Was Tim Tebow blacklisted? Could he have had a chance?
Remind me
because
what
I'm asking. Well, he was very pro-life with abortion, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, Matt. But I mean, Tim Tebow, he did have a playoff run.
Yeah, because he's a highly religious person. And I don't know if he was, how far that went, but if that's what he believes, that doesn't change that he should be recruited and paid and given the same opportunity on a professional field as the next guy. It should not be a factor. But what people want to agree and disagree with his opinions on the side, that's totally fine. When it comes to the four nations, that goes a lot bigger because we're talking about a country committing what many people would call war crimes. And that goes to international kind of, so I think that, certain large scale things like that, Russia doesn't deserve to play in the four nations. And I'm completely in agreement with that. But that doesn't mean that just because Ovechkin has strong ties to Putin, that we don't laud Ovechkin for being the ultimate all-timer that he is, and today showed better than ever that he deserves to be because he's the greatest goal scorer in history. He's a fantastic, unbelievable, hard-nosed player he's always been one of my favorite players, but because of his personality, every time I see the guy score a goal, he's cheering louder and harder than most other guys. He's very animated. He's,
I get it.
Player. He's a winner, man. He's a winner and exciting player. One of the greatest one-timers in history. Slap shots. I mean, this guy's box office and deserves all the praise that he gets. And how his relationship is with Vladimir Putin should not affect that when it comes to how he's viewed as a sports star. Again, it's not like he's O.J. Simpson or something like that. O.J. Simpson was still a great running back, though. He was still a fantastic running back, Bill's all-time legend, and he should be remembered as that, just like he should be remembered for all the negative shit in life. But again, politics has always been intertwined with sports. It will always be the case. But I will say this, the more crazy that politics gets, that's also going to bleed into everything, including sports.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, And so, Maddie, did you have a final comment or?
No, I know.
No, you're good. Okay.
I think the one thing I can say is that there's always some way to poke the bear to add fuel to the fire. And even though we try to get away from politics, whether it's through sports or through knitting or whatever the case may be, politics is always going to come into play. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, and especially with the with so many political voices on social media, and that there is such a polarization these days. Me personally, I really do enjoy this kind of discussion, and I really want to thank you guys for chiming in how you have. But let's chat about a little straight facts, bro. Relax. This is a practice that the three of my panelists have taken part in, and I am for it. And Neel, we are going to talk a little NBA, and the Oklahoma City Thunder is having one heck of a run. They are led by Canadian Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a slew of top youngsters despite being the second youngest team in league history in the league currently, only Portland is younger. They are at a 64-14 mark, but playoff experience, as we have identified in previous championship teams, means something. The Oklahoma City Thunder does not have that much experience. However, they are just having a dream season. Will it last into the spring? The Oklahoma City Thunder will make the NBA Finals despite being the second youngest team in the league. Straight facts or bro relax?
Admittedly, I'm speaking both from the heart and the mind on this one in combination. I don't know which one's pulling the other more here, but for me, this is straight facts, bro, because I love the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are everything that I love in a team. Not to mention they got who will soon be considered the GOAT of Canadian basketball at the helm, in not even his prime yet. The best player in the league, in my opinion, the deserving MVP, in my opinion. We could get into advanced stats on why I believe that, why his case against Jokic is actually much better than the general fan might think it is, just based on, Jokic's advantage in counting stats. But, they got just a beautiful team, man. And I don't care what anyone calls these guys corny for how they do the post-game interviews where they're all together.
I love it.
I love that stuff, man. I love that stuff. And the swag that they got, it's not swag that's undeserved. It's swag that has been cultivated, and it's swag done right. It's not directed at anyone else's downfall. It's only directed at their own upliftment. And when you need killers to win championships. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a killer. Kobe Bryant was a killer. Michael Jordan was a killer. And you need these guys who are bucket getters, but are also two-way elite players and have elite teams around them. And what was the OKC's downfall last year? Two things. One was inexperience, because guys like Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren could not reach that level in their first playoff test. They played much worse in the playoffs, particularly against Dallas, than they did in the regular season. That is gone now. Their initiation is over. Now it's this year, and they've got a lot more swag and confidence. So the supporting cast is going to be better. But the second thing was the rebounding. The Dallas was one of the best rebounding teams in the league last year. OKC that was their big weakness, their Achilles heel. And it showed in that series where they lost to Dallas, and still was a very competitive series to the loss to the team that went to the NBA Finals. You've completely fixed that by getting Isaiah Hartenstein, not to mention Alex Caruso, and you just got a team that is now just looks so much more like a contender than it did last year. And all of their best players are getting closer to their prime, not away from it. So to me, with all of the other teams again, there's like 3 or 4 teams, I won't be surprised if they come out of the West. But far and away, I feel that OKC's got the best shot. And to be honest, I do think that's going to be the case. Straight facts, bro. Straight facts.
Matty, there's been a couple of terms that have in sports. You think about the juiced ball, you think about load management, and these days we're hearing a lot about torpedo baseball bats. And it appears that it has began with your New York Yankees, and that the early response is that a lot of players are really digging it. But Aaron Judge has said that he is going to refrain from using a torpedo bat. Let's say he gets in the. I apologize. I didn't really get a quick look at how Judge is doing this season, but this early part of the season. But
he's doing good. He's doing good.
So let's say that he has a slump. One day at batting practice, he's not going to try a torpedo bat, and he's going to say, "Oh my God, where has this been all my life?" And he'll hit 5 home runs, and he'll get $900 million for his next contract. But let's say that just for no reason whatsoever, Aaron Judge gives it a try and falls in love. Is that possible? Aaron Judge will use a torpedo bat by this time next season. Straight facts or bro relax?
All right. A part of me wants to say bro relax because I think Major League Baseball wants to lose all of their baseballs. But I would probably say straight facts, bro. And the reason why I'm going to say straight facts is because Aaron Judge sees it with Jazz Chisholm Jr. and guys like Anthony Volpe that the torpedo bats work. And I know Aaron Judge can prove that he hit 62 home runs and then 58 home runs and 52 home runs in his 3 best seasons without a torpedo bat. But he's getting up there in age. He's going to be 34 next season. You figure that his hitting and his batting average is going to decline a little bit. Yes, even though this is the same guy who has tied Babe Ruth for most home runs hit in his first 1,000 career games as a Yankee, eventually he's going to slump or he's going to decline and he's going to need a little bit of a boost. Though the guy's 6'7", 282 pounds and literally could beat me up in an alley, this guy could use any edge that he wants, especially if it's during a postseason game. So I'll say straight facts, bro.
Yeah, could that be the pick-me-up that guys in their later years need? Like an Aaron Judge. I mean, hey, Father Time, we'll get to him at some point. And if the torpedo bat does have that run, for sure, that kind of cred.
Can I give you guys a fun fact? 3/4 of the league right now uses what's known as a sand bat or a bat made about a maple.
Yeah.
Which was invented by a Canadian in Ottawa, Sam Holden or something.
I think Barry Bonds used that bat. Yeah.
And so the way that it got popularized is that he had 3 Blue Jays, including Joe Carter, test the bat out in the first MLB games where it was actually used in the 90s. Joe Carter hit a home run with it, and he told the guy, "You're onto something." Slowly, the bat just started to gain popularity with stars, and then Bonds was a huge proponent and escalator of the maple bat, which overtook the ash bat. And so this Canadian company just became super successful, and it took over the league. And now what we're seeing is that the torpedo bat most likely is going to do the same thing to the maple bat that the maple bat did in the 90s to the ash bat.
One thing I did say, and I don't know if you saw this, but I made a T-shirt, a custom T-shirt that's a concept design. It says torpedo bat plus steroids equals rip. And just God forbid someone back in the 90s, like if a Mark McGwire or Sammy Sosa or Barry Bonds used the torpedo bat while they were taking juice.
God.
Oh my God.
80, Bonds might have 80 home runs.
Sure.
I mean, Bonds was using it when he was, Bonds was doing that combination with the maple bat.
Yeah. Imagine.
I mean, I guess it would be interesting to see how many home runs are hit collectively as a league, because just simply in terms of contact. Now, I mean, I'm only speculating here, but it's about gaining a little bit more distance when you make contact. And if you're a slap hitter, I know that there's not a lot of as it was back in the 80s and 90s, but contact will just drive the ball harder and obviously further. But specific in terms of home runs, I'm wondering how much more. And it would be great to see who has identified as using a torpedo bat and how much more their stats are going to increase or even decrease.
Something to keep an eye on.
The season goes on. Yeah, for sure. Finally, Jake, what is going on with the NBA? I mean, the contracts are going absolutely through the roof. You think about Jaylen Brown's contract, you think about Fred VanVleet's contract, and there's a whole bunch of other, and it's only going to grow even more. Is that one of the reasons why we're seeing excessive load management? There has to be something that needs to be done. There's no way that the NBA is seeing this as a long-term solution, or they have to try and put an end to this excessive load management at some point. But let's say that they don't. The current CBA for the NBA, Jake, is going to expire at 2030. And could this be a point where it would bleed into negotiations for a new contract? NBA stars, Jake, will put a halt to the excessive load management before the end of the current CBA. Straight facts or bro relax?
I'm going to go with bro relax on that one. I don't see it. There is no leadership with the NBA with Adam Silver. He really isn't a good commissioner to me. I think part of the reason that he gets hyped up so much, the first thing that he was given when he entered office was, of course, a just really horrifying situation with Donald Sterling. He made the right decision in banning Donald Sterling. However, to me, I do think that was an easy decision. That I don't know why you wouldn't ban that guy. Nothing else that he's really done to me has really affected the NBA in a positive way. I don't like the in-season tournament. I think it's dumb. I don't even remember like a play-in tournament whatsoever. And just look at the product. There's no defense being played. I'm pretty sure ratings are down. Again, I mentioned the in-season tournament. I don't understand that at all.
But I mean, I think ratings are down, Jake, because the stars are always taking off. Let's say that they do play 75 plus games.
Yeah, there's no defense being played, and there's a lot of every year there's 7-8 teams that just are not competitive at all. I mean, this year you look at the Washington Wizards, like really, like you like these teams aren't even trying, and it's the way the luxury tax is structured. It's really hard to build a team. I mean, because the problem is you got above average players making $50 million. You got other guys making like $2 million. You're making either like $50 million or $2 million, which is kind of a problem. Like freaking Desmond Bane's on like a $240 million contract, and he's not a bad player. Like should he be paid as one of the 10 highest paid guys in the league? No. And you mentioned the contracts are getting out of control. When Jalen Brown got that contract, I mean, he's a phenomenal player. He won Finals MVP last year, but he was coming off that really bad playoff series and not even the best player on his own team. And he got a $300 million contract. So, that's kind of ridiculous. So the NBA progress really isn't very strong right now. And I don't see, as long as Adam Silver is in charge, I don't see the load management era really coming to an end until they maybe the only option maybe is if they let the CBA expire. And maybe not a lockout like we've seen in baseball, and like this thing we're like, are they going to play a season? But something to where it may expire, and they will have to go back to the table and talk about some things and work some things out, and they're going to have to put some sort of rules in and stop this, because otherwise I don't see it
happening. I think the big issue is that the NBA is a very entitled league right now. Entitled to a fault, meaning a lot of the entitlement that is felt among the player pool is not deserved. Many of those guys, they don't, and part of that is like Jake said, Adam Silver is too much of a softie. He's too accessible. He's too forgiving. He's not as much of an authoritarian as he needs to be to maintain a good product and good parity. And like David Stern was an authoritarian figure, and he laid the law down. He didn't give a crap if you were Michael Jordan or if you were the lowest paid guy in the league. He put the law down on everybody. It was his law, his way or the highway. And I think not society as a whole, governments don't need to be that way, but sporting leagues could use a little bit more of that, because it helps to keep everyone in the same lane.
But don't you think, Neel, that the issue still stems from the fact that the marquee players in that league are north of 35? And I'm thinking of Steph, KD, and LeBron. I mean, I don't think Anthony Edwards is the face of the league. No, I mean, I don't know how much load management Giannis takes, but I don't know how much Jokic takes. But I think that there is a different momentum. There will be a different momentum when the LeBrons, and I love Steph. Steph is my guy. LeBron's getting on my nerves. But, when those three guys go, I think there will be a different tone.
To be fair, though, Steph and LeBron were never big load management guys. They play Steph. Okay, Steph but he was injured a lot too. I mean, LeBron has played the vast majority of games in his career. He's not really missed any type of significant time unless some of these latter Laker seasons. It's more about the other guys and the fact that guys don't try, guys don't consider the they're more concerned with their brand than the brand of their teams and the quality of their teams. A lot of times, there's many little pervasive little elements of entitlement that kind of bleed in and are noticeable as a whole when you look at this league, especially as someone who's watched all the different eras like myself. You notice this stuff, and it's mostly that's why the league is not, I would say, headed in the right direction. But that's why, going back to my OKC point, I just marvel and just love and I soak in a guy like Shea. Zero entitlement, zero diva, all game, all badass. And this is the type of guy the league needs more of. And I will say this, and not to be, but it's all the American players that are showing all of this entitlement. None of these international superstars, with the exception, one could argue, the Dallas Mavericks probably thought Luka Doncic was too entitled. That's probably half the reason they traded him, that he was getting a little too big for his britches that they consider, even though I agree it's the stupidest trade in history. It mostly comes from the American players, and I'm not saying anything there. It's simply a fact thus far.
Yeah.
The only international guy that really has issues with that is, to me, is Joel Embiid. He's really the only international.
Yeah, but even he's American. Team USA.
But yeah,
He's originally NBA. He's USA.
Team USA was just like, come.
Like there are the American players who feel like they're entitled and diva-ish, and then you got guys like Nikola Jokic who literally just is a gem to watch in interviews.
I mean, Jokic is like he's funny because he would rather ride horses. Meanwhile, he goes out 20 and 20. And in that press conference, he's like, guys, I need to go feed my horse.
I want to go home. I want to go home.
Yeah, I think he's cognizant of his mystique, and that's just all part of the mystique. He really does care about the game a lot.
Well, of course,
he wants to maintain his mystique, and I think he does a fantastic job of it.
You cannot be a mid-second round pick and be like a consensus number like MVP candidate like Nicole. Like obviously the effort that that guy puts in. It just continues to grow, and yeah, his demeanor. I like Nikola Jokic. I mean, when it comes to the press conferences and just while he's in the U.S. and during the NBA season, I mean, he's duller than dishwasher. I mean, you guys must have seen him partying in Serbia. The YouTube clips. I mean, it's beautiful. I just love to see. Oh, it's just fantastic.
Well, I tell you,
all day for Jokic.
The idea about having a U.S. versus World All-Star game, look, I know one thing. I think that the world players will take it a little more seriously and want to beat down on the Americans. And if the Americans come in there lackadaisical and they get beat a few years in a row, then you start the process of finally maybe having something sustainable there. But again, who knows? It's a crapshoot.
I don't agree with that. I mean, well, first of all, I want it to be a 7-game series. I want USA World 7-game series. That's what I would rather have. I'd rather have it in Europe, to tell you the truth. Yeah. I think it'd be so cool if they did play this tournament. I mean, I know we're kind of
something else.
Oh yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Look at wrestling. They just did the WrestleMania build through Europe. Freaking John Cena, who's like the greatest guy ever, in the first European show in Belgium. The second his music hits, John Cena sucks.
And then one of the first things he does is he ponders on a little kid. A poor Belgian kid got slapped by Cena verbally.
Yeah, no, very quick. Honestly, I think the U.S. players will put in 100%. I just don't know if they have what it takes to beat an international team. With a Jokic, with a Wembanyama, Jamal Murray. I mean, throw everybody in there.
Right.
Say it again. I'm sorry, Jay.
I was just saying, if the USA versus World play, I would think I would probably pick Team World. In fact, they should probably be
the whole crux of the idea is the fact that the world is so strong. The last 6-7 MVPs have been world players, and this year it's going to happen again. This is the perfect time to take a leap with this type of idea, because if this disparity, it may not come around. It may be the thing that kickstarts these, American players. And if the American players get more into it, everyone's going to get more into it. It's going to become a thing again. But I don't know what the hesitation has been, honestly, why they're throwing in these dumb ideas about having 4 teams, having the rising stars compete with the main all-stars in this tournament. Just ridiculous. And I mean, it seems like the answer is right in front of them. But once again, the whole point is that the entitlement disparity is a big thing. And I think that's what's bringing this league down, as Jake was pointing at.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, answers right in front of them. NHL, get your international tournaments in the summertime.
Exactly. There's no entitlement. There's no entitlement in the NHL. Those guys
but they're also missing out on really exposing the beauty of hockey by not having a World Cup consistent 4-year run. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous. But fellas, thank you so much. For all the things that we talked about, and just love having you guys on. Let's do it again soon. Really appreciate the urgency as well, because Jake, Matt, and Neel as well. I mean, Neel, I first reached out to you this morning also. Yeah. What's wrong with me, Randy? Guys, for the thank you so much for everything. Really appreciate you all. Let's do it again soon.
Absolutely.
For Neel Katarey, Matt Siriani, and Jake Cardinale, I'm Randy Kure. This is Voice of the Fans Canada at VOF Canada on most social media, as well as YouTube. Hope you're doing well and keeping safe. We will talk to you next time.